I wish that had recorded.
Dang it.
Speaking of which, let's give the old-fashioned clap.
Gonorrhea. Chlamydia.
Switching it up this week.
Whoopsies.
Just we've changed the format of the podcast where we just now yell STIs at you. Hi, and welcome to the Inner Moxie podcast, the podcast about not one but two neurodivergent adults trying to live our best lives on the neuro D list and not hate ourselves in the process. I'm your host, Ronnie.
I'm Amy.
And this week, we will be talking about horror movies.
Yeah. I looked at the cup and I just read the sentence or question. Ring a bell? How's your Moxie meter today?
Here's my Moxie meter. I'm going on, let's call it, I'm going to go with a 5-point scale. I was going to switch it up, but then I got nervous at the last second.
Yeah, if you were wrong about this, someone would shoot you. You're right.
It is.
Oh my God. Sorry, I should not react. I can control that.
No, it's all good. Dogs barking.
Yes, you probably won't hear it. I am just reacting like an old lady.
I'm going to say mine is at a 2 and a 4. And you would argue maybe that's a 3. And I would say sometimes stuff is red and yellow and not orange. Mm-hmm. And right now I am a 2 and a 4. I have no feelings that are straight down the line. They're all slightly bad and slightly good. Mm-hmm. I have been struggling with some of my other work, just not struggling with it, but there's been a wrench thrown in one end of it that is not stopping me, but slowing me down. That being said, on the other side of it, it is going faster than it's ever gone before because I'm in complete control of it. And so there is just a part of that kind of, we call it a pipeline in post-production, but kind of the red tape of having to pass off files and then get them back and then do all of that stuff. Since it all stays right on my computer, right on my screen, right in this particular program I'm using to do the thing. That part's becoming incredibly fast, but also I'm doing some stuff that I'm new to this year. And that goes incredibly slow. So I don't know. I just kind of feel this place of like at about halfway through my dedicated work time, I'm like, this is the fucking worst. I fucking hate this. This project will never be done. And then by the end of it, I'm like, this project is going to be finished in half the time that I've ever finished this project before. And so work-wise, I keep bumping back and forth between those things. Personal life, kind of the same thing. I'm generally feeling, well, now they're talking over me. That's not, I know.
Now the dogs are bothering you.
Now the dogs are bothering me.
It doesn't matter who's talking. This is a problem for me.
I know.
I out-problemed you.
Yeah, but I don't know. Things have been going pretty good in the personal life area. And then literally right before I came over here, I made crab macaroni and cheese for dinner. Came out super good. And my oven is a little busted. And when I pulled it out of the broiler, the shelf, the broiler shelf, you know what I mean?
The drawer?
Yeah, there we go. The broiler drawer. It did not stop where it was supposed to and fell on the ground and crashed into 1,000 pieces. And,
is yours made of glass?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The front panel, which is made of glass.
Oh, okay.
Crashed into 1,000 pieces. And then so I had to clean that up and I got to figure that out. But yeah, just ups and downs. Nothing in the middle, ups and downs. And I am surviving. And it was a bit of work to get here today. Our schedules, I know, were a little off, and that was on my side of things. But I'm excited to be here. So, and we get to talk about horror movies. So
yeah.
I'm always into that. How is your Moxie meter?
Well, I'm going to go with my 10-point scale because there's a lot of variety. Why do I need to explain this? I don't know. A lot of extra words today. I will say, I feel like I'm going to burp and it's not going to come out and we're just going to waste time, I guess. Okay. Well, I am probably overall like an 8 to 8.5. I mean, today I am tired because last night my back was hurting. I didn't put this all together, so I didn't do anything about it, which was the problem, which was I should have just taken ibuprofen before I went to bed, which I'll do tonight. So I just kept waking up with it's not like a huge amount of pain. It's just like I'm used to it, but it doesn't help me sleep well. And now you should all know how much of a baby I am if I don't get the right amount of sleep. I'm bougie in my sleep world.
Back pain doesn't help you sleep?
No, you would think,
right?
But it does not. But like everything else is going pretty well. I am happy, engaged in life.
You got engaged?
Oh, fuck no. You all know. I know that you were joking and I still couldn't let it go.
There's going to be a Mr. Zanny?
Fuck off. No, it's an MX. It's a no one. It's a nothing. Okay. No. So because I find this so funny and it's probably not, when I was changing from work clothes into like what I'm going to wear today clothes, I was like, we're talking about horror films. Maybe I'll wear my House of a Thousand Corpses shirt, which I love. And then,
good flick.
Yeah. And then I was like, I don't love cowboys and stuff now. Cause now I look at all that stuff and I'm like, God, that was such a fucking problem. Like, that's not the glory days. That's like just white people running around committing genocide a little bit. I mean, that's the ones I've got right now. But House of a Thousand Corpses and that whole series, even though that's the only one I really love out of all of them.
Wait. What happened with Cowboys? Where did Cowboys
I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
But so like in the Devil's Rejects, there's just they play the Allman Brothers Midnight Rider, and it just makes me feel like a badass cowboy. So I put on my cowboy boots.
Ooh.
Too, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I was just really feeling it. And then it was making me laugh uncontrollably by myself because it was reminding me, like, this was my makeup movie in college.
Okay.
And I can't say more about that because it's just a weird thing for me back then. That's the end of that story. I thought it was so funny and that fell really flat. So maybe it's not.
No. It turned out that making out was the real horror.
But yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I was in a good mood getting this together.
I dig House of a Thousand Corpses. House of a Thousand Corpses was that I remember because I was really into horror at the time. And this will definitely age me. I remember like following the story in Fangoria and stuff like that. Fangoria is a horror magazine.
I've heard of it. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Fango for short. But like I remember because there was like a whole thing that Rob Zombie was going to make a horror film. And it's like, oh, that sounds fucking phenomenal. And then.
Was this his first one?
Yeah. Oh. Well, and then he made it for Universal. And
yes, I know that.
Yeah, and Universal.
Because you can see it when the kids are trick-or-treating. I'm like, oh, I know where that is.
Yeah. Well, no, he made it like for Universal, the company.
On the lot for them, and then they were like, we're not doing this.
Yeah, well, he made the whole thing, and they're like, yeah, we're just shelving that. We can't put that out.
And then came and said, hello.
But it took like 2 years. And so, like, I remember following that. Like, I was very, very invested. I didn't think it would ever come out, and then I remember when it did, I was like, I have to go see this movie. And then I went to go see that movie, and it was enjoyable. And also, I'm a big fan of arguably House of a Thousand Corpses is kind of like
Rain's Beginning.
That's one. But a kind of it is very much in the spirit of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. very specifically part 2, which I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre part 2. And Bill Moseley from Texas Chainsaw Massacre part 2 was in it. And so I was very, very excited when that film came.
Well, I didn't know so much that part, but I just was like, this is such a colorful movie for all of the slashy horror shit. And it was just, I'm not one to notice art. I think you probably know that by now, but I even thought that movie was pretty artsy and colorful and fun.
He definitely has his own style, which is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre part 2. But, which, by the way, if you like that movie, you should watch Texas Chainsaw.
Okay, I
can't anymore. It's too many words. So much Chainsaw 2.
Okay, Chainsaw 2. Yeah. On another note, though, so I ran out of a lot of time today.
Yeah.
The Del Taco by my house finally reopened. I didn't like the first one. They tore it down to the ground and then built it back up. And then I went and I was like, oh, it's new. Things are different. Give it a chance. And so all I wanted was a red bean and cheese burrito and a Coke Zero. And they said, oh, we don't have Coke Zero. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like everyone else seems to, although I haven't been going to Del Taco much these days. So maybe they just phased it out, but that was a bad move, Del Taco.
That seems weird, especially if they are a Coke. I went to Del Taco earlier today and got myself a cherry Coke. I have a hard time with the no sugar sodas. I should be drinking them, and zeros honestly aren't that bad.
Yeah,
diets I can't stand diets, but something zero I like those. But it seems weird to me they wouldn't have Coke Zero.
Yeah, like there's no logical explanation as to why, because I mean, maybe I don't know this, but me and my friends like the zeros. You said the zeros aren't as bad as the diet. That is Diet Coke over there. It'll do. I don't drink this stuff much, and I would have preferred to have a zero, but here we are. So that was a little annoying, and I was like, well, I'm glad I came and tried it, and I will not be back because this didn't go well for me. And
you were on thin ice Del Taco, and now that Del Taco in specific.
Learn about it. Anyway, that was that.
Where will you find another Del Taco to go to?
Down the street. No, I don't need any more Del Taco. Like that, I don't know. My taste buds are just like, that's not like it used to be. You can get good flavor elsewhere. Get a real burrito. Okay, I'm not trying to be rude to Del Taco. I do appreciate them. I said something about last week, if you're watching like a true crime documentary, like I used the dumbest examples I could. I was like, I don't watch these things that often, but it's what came to mind. I watch much better quality and more researched things than Snapped and Dateline. Dateline's not too bad. It's just very commercial and very stylized in a way that I do like Keith Morrison. I think he's funny, but everything else, I mean, sometimes the story, I don't know. Anyway, like I loved The Jinx, which season 2 was out. Like there's a lot of good stuff I could have said and I just didn't. And I just wanted to say
you picked your Del Tacos.
I did. I picked the Del Taco of the true crime world. Like Snapped is kind of a joke a little bit.
Right.
Anyway.
That you have a much more bereft taste in true crime than you let go.
I did.
I will say the thing from last episode, I just want to make 2 quick corrections we talked about Goonies real quick.
Oh, yeah.
And so what it was the octopus was cut from the theatrical, but then came back as a bonus feature on certain Blu-rays and DVDs.
Oh, so they skipped it for like 30 years.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, not quite 30 years, but... it played on the Disney Channel and they made a big scene of now with the octopus scene in it.
I didn't have the Disney Channel until I was in high school.
I didn't have the Disney Channel until the Disney Channel was free.
That's probably when I had it too.
Maybe it was on. Actually, it does. I don't know. I just remember it was the Disney Channel, and I didn't have Disney Channel when I was a kid, so maybe it was free preview weekend.
Oh yeah, those were fun.
Those were super fun. I did the most. There was one summer that my family had HBO, because my mom wanted to watch a Garth Brooks concert and it was only playing on HBO, and so she kept it for the whole summer. I made the greatest discovery of all time. HBO was on channel 16. And this is back in the days when you ran, through, you'd put the TV on channel 3, and then the cable box would come in and you'd switch the channels from there, right?
I don't remember the setup.
So yeah, basically you put it on channel 3, and then you'd change the channel. So you'd go put the TV on channel 3, put the cable box on channel 16 for HBO. But then if you turn the channel up one channel to channel 4, Cinemax, which was on channel 17, would bleed through unscrambled, which was like...
Is that porn?
I mean, not until 10
Cinema,
o'clock.
not Sins.
Yeah, Cinemax. Although it was commonly referred to as Skinemax.
Okay.
It was the one that ran the most after midnight type content, late night content at late night. But during the day, it was regular movies. It just wasn't as popular as HBO or Showtime. But yeah, that's the kind of like pay cable channel softcore pornography of the 80s and 90s is generally referred to Skinemax because it got played a little more on Cinemax than it did on HBO or Showtime or Stars. But that, I don't know how I made that discovery when I was a kid, but it changed the world for me for one summer. And then the world went back to sucking until the internet was invented.
Well, I'm glad you have access to your porn now.
Thank you. It's the world's porn that I have access to now.
Okay.
And then just another point, we briefly talked about Clive Barker, and I said that he's only directed like 3 films, which is true. He's mostly a novelist, but I forgot to leave out that he's an artist, and his art is insane and amazing, and I love it. And so,
by art, you mean like
paintings?
Okay.
So classical visual art, which is probably why he was able to direct movies so well and kind of have that weird, beautiful, insane look that especially Hellraiser had, but also his other 2 films.
So you're saying I can't direct a film because I can't do art?
No, you absolutely could.
Not arty, not fun, not Hellraiser.
I would say that there's probably a plethora of reasons you can't direct a film, but not being artsy is not. This is something I have vast respect for directors, and this next statement is going to sound like I am blowing them off. I am not. On a technical level, a director is the person that needs the least knowledge of how to do film shit of anybody else on the crew.
I'm on my way.
He, she, or they just need to have good people and an idea of where things are going. And I apologize. I put the word just in there. Just is wrong. That's a hard thing to do. But you don't have to know how to compose a shot to be a director. But you hopefully have a cinematographer that does, and that you can get across what you need from that cinematographer or director of photography. Blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to pull away. A lot of directors can compose a shot, do know what's going on in the sound department, do know a thing or two about visual effects, especially, as you get down the rung financially. There are directors in independent cinema that are doing fucking everything. And so, yeah. And
okay.
Side tangent over.
All right. Well, I don't really want to be a director.
Good.
Not in that sense. I direct my life. All right. Well, shall we jump in?
Let's get back to them horror movies.
Okay. Now back to my confusing thing. Here's my note about Snapped and Dateline and pink highlighter, just so you couldn't forget. Okay. Now, what order did I say? I changed it up because I had time. Didn't think about this. Okay.
I had enough time to fuck up everything I did that was going to be. Have you ever done that before? Where you're like, I've got everything perfect. This will work. This is good. And then you're like, well, I have some extra time. Let me see if I can't fine tune something. And then You come out the other end, you're like, I ruined everything.
Oh, I know I've had extra time for things, but I don't recall fucking things up like that. So either I used the extra time well, or I just don't remember the failure. Yeah. That's all that could happen too. Okay, so I thought we could start with anxiety and horror.
Okay. I just keep going.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Sound like you had a thought.
I do have a thought.
Okay. Well, now just sit on it.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I know you are. Okay, so I think I have listened to the last episode twice because the first time I did it right on time, right when you sent it, and then forgot to write down what we talked about because I didn't keep good notes here, which who needs to know that? No one. But I think we talked about who likes horror movies, and we kind of were hypothesizing about maybe neurodivergent people like it more potentially. Right. And anxiety is experienced by a lot of people, including neurodivergent people, and especially high with, ADHD and autism and other things too, I'm sure. I mean, anxiety is pretty popular, pretty out there.
Yeah. Well, and two, I think, and this is something I've come to learn, anxiety can be a chronic lifelong thing. And I think depression is the same way, can be a chronic lifelong thing that people deal with, but it also is something that dips in and out of people's lives. And also the amount of it dips in and out of people's life. I know I was on medication for anxiety and depression that was like, I always kind of have it there, but it was very manageable until the pandemic came out. And about halfway through the pandemic, I got put on those medications because I was not doing well. And I stayed on them for years. And then just not too long ago, some of the side effects were outweighing the pros, and so I weaned myself off of them, and it's been more or less the right call. Nothing's perfect all the time, but you got to go with, I think I'm better without them than I am with them.
Yeah, and there may come a time where the side effects, don't outweigh it is kind of like, it can be cyclical, or, varying degrees. I know right now anxiety is really backed off. And I attribute that to releasing a lot of the masking, like that pent up energy and like that need to I don't know if it's control, but just there's a lot that goes into masking. Yeah. So there's not a lot of energy being put there. So the high levels of anxiety that had been present for a really long time, I would say disappeared almost completely for a while, but really drastically quickly, which was a shock.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's great or not. I mean, there's a little bit here and there now.
Yeah.
But anyway. So people who struggle with anxiety though, if they're a horror person, it actually could be helpful, because of these reasons that we will discuss and talk about now. Well, this just is a helpful distraction. Okay, yeah.
Duh.
Yes. Horror movies provide tangible fears where they can focus their minds. Okay, you can say that about anything.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, the next one, the anxiety gets validated or normalized. I was like, I never actually thought about that. That's a good idea. Whatever the plot is, there is major fear, which is exaggerated anxiety.
Yeah.
Basically.
No, that's a really good point. It's when you're sad and you go listen to sad music and not happy music to turn you around, but I don't know. And I'm speaking for me, but I assume other people have this similar experience of I'll get sad and I'll put on sad music, and having that other source of sadness, even if it's not necessarily the same thing, there's some sort of almost companionship with that song and those emotions in my head that will make me feel better. not happy, but make me feel better. That will make me come to kind of terms with that sadness.
I'm not reacting to you. I'm dealing with the dogs.
It's okay. And I've never thought of that in a horror and anxiety sense, but that could be of, like especially like teenage Ronnie going around just, we'll use the word scared, but scared of the world, and then go and put on something scary. And it's like, okay, this emotion now makes sense to me. I'm with this. I feel understood by something. Which was something sad music or angry music always gave me when I was angry or when I was sad, because I've never been like a physical guy. I wasn't going to punch somebody. But hearing other...
I want to punch a fucking dog right now. And I don't really want to do that. I would never actually do it, but I'm perseverating a bit. It's just gone on excessively long this time.
What if a dog was about to attack a baby?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I will stop that from happening.
Punch that dog.
I'll do something. Grab the baby and I'll just go like this because I'm tall. And then I get mauled and I'm dead, but I saved a baby.
Because the dog was full.
Horror films? Listen, any directors out there, pick this one up. Yeah. I mean, music doesn't work like that for me. But I will say I figured this out. I don't think it was on purpose, but it's probably the same thing. Like growing up, and especially, whenever I was able to actually listen to music I wanted to listen to, just listening to just like loud stuff at the loudest I was allowed to in wherever I was, to quiet the loud inside my head that I didn't have words for.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
And so now I know that, but it doesn't ever work though. I don't feel less loud. I just like, well, I guess we made room. Everything's going on in there now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of personifying music or art in these scenarios but like, listening to sad music doesn't make me less sad when I'm sad. It just makes me feel more understood. So listening to loud music might not quiet the things in your head, but it makes the fact that your head is loud not seem so bad.
True.
There's a fucking line from a guy, Wayne Kramer, who was the lead singer of the MC5, and I don't know if MC5 was like a one of the first like jam or a big jam rock bands in the 70s. Kick Out the Jams was their big song. Speaking of horror movies,
I just thought of Pump Up the Jam. That's not it.
No, also a great tune in some sense. But speaking of Rob Zombie's movie, that song was in Halloween 1 or 2. The girls that worked at the record store, they play a record and they're like, "It's time to kick out the jams, motherfuckers."
That was Halloween 2.
Yeah, that's the MC5. Lead singer, guy named Wayne Kramer. He put out a solo record in the 90s, and there's a song on it called Going Back to Detroit. MC, not obviously. MC standing for Motor City 5. They were from Detroit, the Motor City.
And there's 5 people in the band?
I would be shocked if all 5 were still alive. But he says, I even forget the line that goes up to it, but just the power of loud electric guitar. And that is something that, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to guess at what would have happened if teenage Ronnie hadn't discovered the power of a loud electric guitar. Just that boom, that fuzz, that distortion, that loudness. Nope.
The world is going to shit.
The cops have been waiting for me to admit to that. No. But yeah. So I'm very thankful for loud music.
Same. I mean, I don't even know if it's this deep, but I love metal because it's just so loud. I mean, I loved grunge too. I wish I was a little bit older so I could have really experienced that for real. like in real time.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
Because I would say, 94 was when Kurt Cobain died. We were each 10 years old.
Yeah, in 5th grade.
Yeah, we kind of fall. I know some people. I just call it elder millennial, but I know like some people call it exennial. But that kind of you fall into a mush of between Generation X and millennial, and I think the grunge thing was kind of like one of those last Generation X stops.
Yeah, I think so. I really liked it, but like the there's just something about, if I could, I would blow my eardrums out every day. I would stand in front of an amp.
I was very worried until you said eardrums.
That doesn't even cross my mind. I just love standing in front of like an amp.
Mm-hmm.
And just like absorbing like that loudness, because it's vibrational. Like you can feel it. Like there's just nothing like it. My Tesla can get kind of close. Like it starts to vibrate the car. I'm like, here we are. We did it. But anyway, I love that. Like it must be some kind of sensory thing too.
Mm-hmm. Some people say, I mean, it's common knowledge, and sometimes common knowledge is just wrong. But Beethoven, he started to lose his hearing, and that's how he continued to compose after his hearing was gone. Was he would put his head on the piano and slam the keys and go off of the vibrations. I believe it was Beethoven, maybe Mozart.
I know. I think that would be right if this is accurate. That fits Beethoven's vibe. You know what? No.
His aura, his riz.
Okay, I didn't know any of them. But when I'm thinking of, well, who cares? I don't know.
Who cares? I don't.
I do care a little bit, but I'm not going to figure this out right now. But yes, one of them. I think it's Beethoven, that where you see like the statue of like the bust, like the head and the bust.
Mm-hmm.
So it must be him. But anyway, but I remember something along those lines. Like, I don't know how easy that would have been, but there was a lot less noise back then. Mm-hmm. Not that if you couldn't hear, that wouldn't be a thing for you.
I believe, I'm not an expertise on the timelines of musical instruments, but I believe, pipe organs existed by then. And pipe organs could certainly...
I want to listen to Sweeney Todd. Fun. I want to see that again.
I may have told you this before, but I haven't mentioned it on the podcast, but we're talking... But somehow pipe organs and horror movies got brought up. When I went to community college, this is back when I still lived in Riverside, one Halloween night, they have a Fox Theater out there. It was actually the theater, this specific Fox Theater, which is just like a one-screen, old-timey theater. This is where they first screened Gone with the Wind.
Ever?
Yeah, first time screening ever. And I don't believe it was a screening for the public. I believe it was a screening for the people involved with the film to see it before they had its premiere. Also, people need to stop loving Gone with the Wind. But not the point. But this beautiful theater had beautiful pipe organ built into it. And they played the original Lon Chaney Sr. Phantom of the Opera with a live pipe organ player. But I had class that night, and I didn't go. And I never stopped kicking myself in the ass for that. Especially I didn't even fucking graduate. So,
you want to hear a similar story?
Yes, please.
Well, I didn't graduate from piano lessons either. I quit.
Does anyone graduate from piano lessons, or did you just stop taking them at one point?
I don't know. I didn't get that far. I mean, I was pretty good. Like the teacher was like, "You could do this," and I was just like, "I hate it. Don't make me do this." Like,
did you just keep playing "Just a Friend" by Biz Markie over and over again?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's an old 80s hip hop song.
Oh, so no, I didn't do that. But I did learn how to play like the it's not the real, okay, the original Andrew Lloyd Webber, Phantom of the Opera. And so when you do that, this teacher, she worked it out to where you could go play it on an organ, maybe not a pipe organ, but an organ. And I said, no, I was such a shit. I was in 8th grade and like,
I think not.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't stand her. And I don't know. Like, I can still remember the way that she would take sips of her water and the lipstick.
That bitch.
Fucking water drinking motherfucker.
All hydrated and shoving it in our faces.
Yeah, and a little bump here. I don't know. This is so mean and stupid. I was in 8th grade. I don't know what to say other than I don't think that way about people now.
Children are cruel, and we were all children at one point.
I feel like at 14, I was hardly a child anymore, but okay, I'll take it.
I think you're in 8th grade. I thought you were saying you were 8 years old.
Yeah, no. I mean, I took piano lessons for a while. I mean, I quit in 8th grade. I started in like the end of 3rd grade, so that's like almost 5 years ish. So like, I have the skill right now. It's just like basically just like coping. I play for me.
Yeah,
I have. Well, I don't know about now, but I used to have really bad performance anxiety and public speaking and blah, blah, blah. I don't know that I struggle with that anymore. This event that I did for work last Friday, like I got up in front of everyone and talked a bunch and I didn't feel scary. So maybe that's gone. I don't know. But all of that to say, I declined the offer to go play it on an organ and I should have done it.
Yeah.
You should have graduated. Just kidding. You should have just...
That's the thing, by the way. I have repeatedly told the story about how I didn't go watch it that night. I have never been like, I should have graduated. Like,
well, you missed that. You should have had something to show for it. Just kidding. You've lived your life.
I have.
Who cares
It
about
sounds like I'm about to die. You've lived your life. You've done great, Ronnie.
Yeah, and now it's time to say goodbye from all of us to you.
Not a lot of people make it to 41. It's fine.
I guess. 200 years ago, that's true. All right. Next point. Anxiety and horror. Okay, so there's a sense of control. So the sense of anxiety people experience when watching a scary movie feels more within their power. Blah, blah, blah. They give viewers the sense that if we tolerate our anxiety, we will be okay in the end. That's reassuring for anxious people. That's not a bad thought.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know if there's a lot of weight to it, but it's okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, I think, too, I think that's going to be a film-by-film basis, too. Have you ever seen the movie Funny Games? Funny Games is one of my favorite films, and it's why I went when you brought up anxiety, because it has, I think, it's literally one of the most anxiety-inducing things I have ever seen in a movie. Is there's this scene early on in this movie where basically it's a family goes out to a little vacation house, and there's these like 2 preppy neighbors that are like young men that come over.
What year is this?
This would be mid 2000s.
2 preppy young men neighbors.
That's
I don't know why that's funny. This is not the point.
No, it's very
Really. It's a funny game you're playing.
But one of them asks for eggs, and there's this scene that follows, and it's Naomi Campbell is the mom, and I forget the name of the 2 preppy guys, both great actors.
I just blew it snot. I don't know why preppy is so stupid.
But like, I'll show you pictures of them. They're dressed in white polo shirts and white shorts and white gloves. Like they came off of and I think they even have like I was going to say golf course, but close enough. Yeah. I think they even have like the sweaters tied around their necks.
Oh, okay.
Like
okay. Yes, that's an 80s sounding thing.
Yeah. Or just rich people now sounding thing. Anyway. But yeah, he comes in and asks for eggs. And like, I don't know how to, like, you have to go watch the scene for yourself. But it's just this really tense, not like he's going to hurt her, but the way they talk, there's just something off of it the whole time. And it just is like, it is one of the most uncomfortable, and I've watched a lot of uncomfortable shit. It is one of the most uncomfortable things for me to watch is the egg scene in that movie. And I think that movie by and large is one of the most off-putting, anxiety-inducing movies for me to watch. I adore it. It's great. But part of it is it does not, there's like certain kind of rules that you set up in movies and it does not follow them. It feels kind of violating when you watch it. Yeah. So anyway, just that's Funny Games is when talking about anxiety, I think Funny Games is the peak.
Well, it sounds like something I maybe won't watch. Only because I don't want to invite anxiety back because it probably will make its way back eventually. I would hope not, but you never know. So I don't want to just be like, here's this open door for you. Let's just come back on in.
Yeah, I like that you have made Funny Games the Ouija board of anxiety.
I guess. Let's see. The plot resolution. Not in Funny Games, or just the fact that the film has to end, offers a sense of safety so viewers can experience the catharsis of feeling acute anxiety from the beginning up to the conclusion. There is something to, it's not, I don't watch movies because, I used to get really scared of like the paranormal type things, but not like all of them, but more like The Grudge was really scary for me. The Ring was like terrifying for a minute. A minute means some years.
Yes.
Okay. Like those kinds of things. I mean, Halloween, the original, I saw it in 6th grade at my friend Lindsay's house, and I mean, Michael Myers still shows up in my dreams. One, it hasn't happened lately, but like when I'm very anxious, like, he just walks and he's gonna get you, like you're just fucked. But I don't know. I guess the movie does have to end, but like, why subject yourself to that? I mean, we kind of covered that last time, but there is something appealing about that. And as a person who used to be extremely anxious, maybe there is a correlation because I haven't really been into this stuff since the masking thing dropped and the anxiety reduced. So maybe I was doing it for this kind of thing, like just dealing with anxiety, because like now I'm just like, I really enjoy it, but I'm just not ever in the mood for it. It's not because I live alone. I used to watch a lot of shit at my house by myself, but right now I'm just not there. I
would say that if this is a kind of weird thought, but just because you said, I watch all kinds of stuff by myself, I was like, if I were a person that had a lot of friends growing up, if I were a person that didn't watch movies alone, there would be no way that I found other people that were watching them, especially pre-internet, which is, I mean, it started to peek its head in, obviously, when we were in middle school and high school, but not the connectivity issue of it.
Unless you had AIM.
Yes. But even then, you were, or I was just doing AIM with people I knew.
That's true. That's not true for me.
But I wasn't finding, they were out there. I was not finding those communities. And so, if there was like, I was going to watch horror movies by myself, or I wasn't going to watch them because nobody wanted to watch that kind of weirdo shit.
Is it? Well,
not nobody. I had friends, but nobody was watching them in my group of people I knew and was comfortable with. Nobody was watching them as obsessively as I was.
But the last one for this, another reason it could be relaxing. Which some people might say, what?
Yeah.
Like I say to this dog, like just figure your shit out, because this is really hard for
Fuck
me.
you, dog.
Yeah. I don't hate dogs, but this dog is really chatty and no one's doing anything about it and I can't. And so I accept my circumstances, but it is very difficult. Okay, so it can be relaxing. When people are in a state of anxiety, their nervous systems respond and release adrenaline to protect us against perceived danger. So our bodies prepare us for danger, blah, 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 fight or flight. We kind of know about this. Since our bodies cannot remain in this heightened physical state forever, our systems will eventually calm us down and restore us to a more calm and balanced state. That's a good point. So you induce that so that you can calm the fuck down. Interesting. Never thought about it.
That's weird. It's almost kind of like a parallel thing to why we take stimulants, especially ADHD. But why our medication is stimulants.
Yeah.
When, I know that's always been a big question, especially for people who don't have ADHD, of like, well, why do you take stimulant medication when you have trouble concentrating? Isn't that...
It's a double negative. It cancels itself out. Ask the scientists. It just fucking works. I'm not cracked out. Thank you.
No. And I think like the kind of way I describe it about is because our brains are naturally low on dopamine.
Is that it?
And I believe it's dopamine.
You're probably
It might be a different one of the pleasure chemicals.
That sounds right.
But our brain is naturally low on it. And so we grab at whatever comes along,
sugar,
to start adding it in. And I've often been like, it's like if you're driving somewhere and you don't have any gas, you're gonna pull in to wherever the fuck you see a gas station, even if it's $6 a gallon, because you don't know when your next gas fill up is going to be. But if you filled up, then that's what our medication does. It fills us up to a normal point. Then we can make better judgments of, are we going to stop at the $6 a gallon? Are we going to stop at the $7 a gallon? Are we going to stop at the whatever it is now? I'll call it $4 a gallon.
I don't buy gallons of gas anymore.
Yes, but you get the point.
I do.
Mrs. Fancy Pants.
She's not married. I hate that. Like,
I apologize, Miss Fancy Pants, Ms. Fancy Pants.
Let's do MX or just get rid of that. Like, I really honestly hate having to identify a person's marital status in formal speak.
Yes.
That is absurd. You would always be a Mr. unless you are an MX, right? Like,
yes.
That is some fucking bullshit. Like,
I was going to say, it's weird on two levels, because it's weird that women have to, I guess Ms. came along, so that was, another option, which I'm glad is there. But the idea being with the whole Miss or Mrs. thing of like, you have to identify whether or not you're married. But then on the flip side, men can't identify whether or not they're married. There's only Mr.
I never thought about it like that. But like the point is like, who cares? Like,
yeah.
Okay, maybe then if that is the only signifier, then why do you need a wedding ring that you're playing with?
Right. This isn't a wedding ring.
I don't know anything.
It's very much my
on
wedding
that
ring.
Hand.
Yes, it is. It is my wedding ring. I always thought this was kind of cute, and my wife has the same one. We got our wedding rings off of Etsy, and that's her fingerprint. And she has my fingerprint on hers.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah. But yes.
Yeah, that was a thing.
But any jewelry to me will immediately become a fidget toy. That's
oh, for sure. I know. I don't have anything on. I had a lip ring. I don't know if you probably can't see if you're watching this because cameras are not probably gonna pick it up. But like you can see where my lip ring left. The outside of it did not close. But I would always play with it. And yeah.
I can imagine if I had a piercing that I had that I was regularly bumping up against, I would play with it all
constantly.
The time. Yeah,
constantly.
I have but one piercing, and it's on my nipple. I wasn't trying to.
I had my nipples pierced at one point. Took them out when I got surgery because I had to, and I was like, I just want to put that back in. This was never great.
This wasn't me. Goodbye, friends.
Yeah. Well, it just. Anyway, it just was not.
It's
the
not
most
me.
fun.
It's you.
Yeah. Get out of here, surgical steel. Page 10. This is a very confusing and chaotic way that I did this. But here we are. Okay. Horror movies as therapy. Oh, fuck. I'm not going back to that. I wrote quote on page 3. I'm like, I'm not turning the pages.
Do you remember?
What was I thinking? I probably was not medicated when I did this. That's a good bet because I don't remember.
Do you ever remember it used to be the thing of like it's an elementary school thing. It'd be like idiot test, flip paper, and then you'd flip the paper, and then it'd say idiot test, flip paper, and then you would count how many times the person did it until they went, hey.
Oh,
I feel like that's kind of the trap you've set up for yourself.
If it's an idiot test. Real bad. All right. Horror movies as therapy. Okay. So they could be used in clinical settings to help people with anxiety or trauma.
Oh. I like that you brought up clinical settings because generally when people are like, "Oh, X is my therapy," I'm like, "That's great. Therapy is my therapy, though."
Yeah. Like it would be like a tool, like if you are attending therapy and your therapist is using cognitive behavioral or some other like behavioral component in your therapy, then this could be a way. And, the criteria to do it would be, do you like horror films?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then this is not indicated.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So this is, I'm not going to read that. All right. People who consume horror develop the ability to cope with stressful anxiety and anxiety-provoking situations. Okay, if this is the case, then watching horror movies and other media could be used by mental health professionals to help people with anxiety develop emotional and behavioral strategies to cope with their fears, which could ultimately make them more resilient in general. I could see this being a great tool for someone who is not invested in therapy and probably not 18 and not there by choice.
Right.
I think there are other ways to do this. So if like a person has volunteered as a 40-year-old, let's say, to go to therapy, maybe.
I like volunteered to go to therapy.
Well,
Yeah.
I did my traineeship with high school students who, if they wanted to come, it was because, at least at first, it was to get out of class.
Right.
Some of them actually did some good work, and I'm very proud of them still.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are. I hope they're alive and well. Anyway, this could help them be more resilient. I think it's just like thinking outside of the box. If a person is doing that, like even having them like write that stuff out, it engages that person in another level of consuming that content.
Right.
Which you could do that with anything. But again, while people who don't enjoy horror may not find this beneficial, for those who do like the genre, watching horror movies could be akin to exposure therapy. Sort of. I think it depends, because horror is kind of broad, like if you love horror films and you are terrified of, I don't know, I'm terrified of being on a ship in the middle of the ocean, no land in sight, and then there's a raging
iceberg.
No. A storm, and the waves are just so big. Like, I mean, I've wiped out in like 3-foot waves. Okay. Like that doesn't feel good. I do not want to know what that's like with 100-foot waves. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry. I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. Please forgive me. Please.
Please forgive me for not wanting to drown. One of the universally worst ways considered to die.
Right. I mean, you could consider Perfect Storm a horror film in this sense because that's how it ends. And that was very scary for me when I watched that. Anyway. I mean, this makes a not great case for this. There's no data here to support any of this. I think it's possible. Again, like if young Ronnie was 16 and your parents were like, you have to do this, that could have been a way in. It could be, just like a pairing, like buy-in, whatever. Too.
I will say this. I think, and I don't want this to come off bad from my parents. Everybody's trying to figure things out. We're 30 years down, 20 years down the line from when that was 25 years down the line from when that was effective towards me. But I think my parents were more like, I don't think there would have been much forcing. If they're like, you should go to therapy, I've been like, okay, I'll go to therapy.
Oh,
That sounds good. But I think they were a little more, especially my mom's a little bit of a normalizer. Like, no, it's just this. It's just this. You're fine. You're fine. So, not that has anything to do with horror, but I think I would have been the one that was like, yeah, let's go to therapy.
okay.
As you can tell, as an adult, I fight to go to therapy.
Yeah. Adult.
Thanks. Yes, an adult.
An adult. What?
That's what he thinks of himself.
Oh, interesting conclusion. Okay, you know what? I will read this quote. I realize why I wanted to read it.
Okay.
Okay, because this is a good point that I was just kind of dismissive over using it in therapy. Okay, a client could see that even though their heart is racing and their muscles are tight during the movie, they really aren't in any danger. The realization could help them in future situations in which physical sensations of anxiety are present, because they could remember that even though their bodies are preparing for possible danger, it is likely just a false alarm.
Okay.
I could get behind that.
Yeah, I feel like that would have to be done in tandem with some kind of mindfulness. Like, you would have to be able to recognize that moment when it happened, both watching the horror movie and when it happened in real life. You know what I mean? So I think like some form of mindfulness would need to accompany that. I'm not even saying you have to like do a full out meditation type thing, although I think it would be helpful. But yeah, I think combined with some kind of mindfulness, that could definitely be something.
I don't know why Grand Theft Auto is happening outside this place, but it is. Okay, well,
The next Grand Theft Auto game is actually taking place in Orange County. No, it's not. I'm making that up.
I won't watch. It's not a game. What? Stop talking to me. I am out of my wheelhouse. Okay. Did you know that there's a downside to watching horror films? Maybe, potentially, according to this thing.
Let's see.
Well, if you didn't already figure this out, it is possible that horror films have fearful content that might further trigger an individual. Yes.
That's true.
I don't know that needed to be said, but maybe it did. I don't know. To me, that seems implied and logical.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say, like, I know I've talked about on here before. I also think that goes beyond the genre of horror. But I've talked about this on here before. One of the reasons I'm in the kind of place where I am in life right now is a couple of years ago, my son had a near drowning accident that came very close to him not being with us anymore, and that changed my life. But it has made it like I don't think I'll ever watch Jaws again.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not a Jaws stan. I know a lot of people are Jaws stans. It's clearly, a classic movie and great and stuff. I'm not a Jaws stan. But like even I was watching what's it called? The Boys, which isn't a horror series. It's more of like an action one. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
Someone on my Amazon account is watching it. Probably my dad.
Yeah, and it's like a comic book movie or show. But one of the characters is I forget his name, but he's basically like the Aquaman of that universe of bad superheroes, and he drowns somebody in that show, just pulls them underwater, not even in a horrifying, like a horror way, but like this is a bad guy doing a bad thing way. And I couldn't make it through. I had to step away for that, or I had to turn my head away from that scene. I couldn't deal with it. And then I watched the rest of the series. I was okay with it. So I could definitely see if your life was affected by a murder, that you may not want to watch movies about murder. And that is totally acceptable. You know, but also I don't see that as strictly a horror problem.
Sure.
If you know, I could see you'd never want to watch a Michael Bay movie again if somebody very close to you died in a car accident. You might not want to see giant car chase movies, you know.
Well, I mean, and just the converse, or I mean, any media can be a tool. Like I worked with a. Oh my god! What the fuck? I get it. You have a gas pedal. Great job pushing it. Like that's not impressive to me.
Going full Shania Twain. That don't impress me much. Okay, you got a gas pedal.
If I was 4'11". Okay, what was I saying? Oh, like even in like ABA therapy, like, you know, I had a client who was like 19 and we watched some things and she was able to like it's a good way to like sit with someone and observe social cues.
Yeah.
You know, pick up on stuff like that. So like it could be a tool for anything. To your point, what you were just saying, trauma survivors or anyone else who had experienced an acute life-threatening anxiety / event,
Right.
may need to avoid as a form of self-care.
Yeah.
And until broader coping tools are in place, or you just don't have to watch that.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's something like I try and make like I would say, and I think that by and large, there's always bad apples, but by and large in the horror community, I think there's a lot of it's like, hey, you really like you know, Goosebumps is your favorite horror movie, and Gremlins, you're a horror fan. You know,
Gremlins counts?
I count Gremlins as a horror movie.
I didn't love that as much as I thought I would.
Oh,
I think
love
they're
Gremlins.
cute.
I adore Gremlins. Gremlins is a weird one for me. Not so much anymore. But I was like, oh, I want to show my kids Gremlins because it's like, to me, it was
It's
like
a Christmas movie.
well, it's a horror movie for kids, which there's just not a lot of. Yeah, and Coraline, stuff like that. I think
love Coraline.
Coraline's great. But they have the hard part is they have a whole section. I am weirdly into my kids believing in Santa Claus, especially when they were younger. I was very into the whole Santa Claus thing. And there's a part, you know, maybe if you're listening with kids, you don't want to listen to the next part. But there's a part in it where
Your kids are listening to this.
yeah, right.
I hope they're adults.
Right. There's a part where Phoebe Cates' character talks about Santa Claus not being real, and she tells like the whole story about her dad dressed up as Santa Claus and tried to come down the chimney, but then got stuck and died in the chimney.
I don't remember that.
I don't
know why it's funny.
First of all, it's fucking horrifying, a story.
and yet I laugh.
Yeah, well, that's what she's saying. She's like, this is why I always hate Christmas. My dad, he wanted to be Santa Claus. He dressed up. He came down the chimney. We thought he never showed up for Christmas. And then there was the smell in the following days. And we found him. And that's how I figured out that Santa Claus didn't exist. It's legitimately terrifying for a PG movie. But also, I was very invested in my kids not finding out Santa Claus exists. So I was like, oh, we got to fast forward this part.
My friend who's turning 40, his dad still won't allow anyone to say Santa's not real.
My favorite, I know we're going to Christmas movies now, but there's a weird point in logic in all of the movies where it's about Santa Claus actually existing.
Violent Night.
Not so much those, but like what was the Tim Allen one? The Santa Claus and Miracle on 34th Street and stuff like that, where like one solitary kid believes in Santa, and but all the parents are like, no, Santa doesn't actually exist, and they're like, oh, he does exist, and it always bothered me because it's like, where the fuck did you think those presents came from? Every Christmas, that means that Santa delivered presents to your house.
I wiped your mind and gave you a memory.
Yeah, and you were just like, oh, I didn't buy that for the kid. Cool.
Suspend your disbelief, Ronnie. You just have to.
I know.
Or this will happen too. I don't think we need to talk about the rest. Okay, well, this is kind of a thing that. Okay, this article quoted someone who is a clinician trained in treating anxiety disorders. Doesn't mention what their licensure or level of education, which doesn't really matter in one sense, but like this is not like the overarching opinion of everybody when they say one thing that we know about anxiety is that when we avoid people, places, or situations that cause anxiety, the anxiety doesn't actually get better. True. It will get worse over time. This is where it gets weird for me. The best thing to do is to confront the anxiety head on. I just think that's a dangerous blanket statement.
I don't think that's entirely necessary. Guns make me anxious.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason for me to be around guns or to learn to fire a gun.
For sure. I also don't think that this person would say, you know what, you just need to watch Jaws 100 times or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like that doesn't. No. Why?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of exploitive of your trauma.
Also, like as general rules, we should be made anxious by some stuff. Mm-hmm. There should be some things. Anxiety is at its core a tool to keep us from dying.
Right. It's just when it bleeds over into other areas and it's debilitating. Like I wouldn't say that your thing with drowning is debilitating. No, like as far as like, I mean it's very specific and not happening around you. Yeah.
Well, and two, I've noticed it's also very linked to, I mean, don't get me wrong. I get nervous. It's better, but I get nervous when my kid, when we, we go to Lake Tahoe every year. Mm-hmm. I got a little nervous like the first year, but, I tend to watch him a little more when he goes over to Grandma and Grandpa's house and goes in the pool.
But you let him in the pool. So it's not.
Yeah, it hasn't
invading.
Yeah, I would say like right now we're looking for a new place to live, and I'm focusing on places without swimming pools because I don't want those dark thoughts and part of it is too, like, I don't even know if that counts as anxiety. I just get the dark thoughts of my son, face down, drowned or whatever, and I don't want to live next to that.
I mean, that just sounds like trauma.
Yeah, it will. And there's no reason. There's no, like, if I had to live next to that, then that's something I have to deal with, and figure out a way, and dive into that stuff. But I don't really think that I need to go out of my way to fix that particular trauma.
No.
I've been on a cruise since I can be around boats. I can be around water. Just I'm a little more observant when my son is near water.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So bad last point paper.
That was a weird one to keep in there. It's just, I don't know why this makes me laugh. But listen, on a high note, their benefits. When I didn't know what to expect when I read these, and I was like, it seems I'm giggling. So here we are. I don't know if I can get through it. I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do this. Beyond the pleasure we get from the scary entertainment. What sentence? Who wrote this shit? But okay. I don't know why that's so funny. It could be a catalyst for falling in love. I think it's. Well, maybe. I mean, okay. Yeah. Like a scary movie? I don't know. Trauma bonding, sure. Research suggests that consuming horror, e.g., watching a horror movie, visiting a horror theme park, together with a date, may facilitate feelings of romance. Why? Co-experiencing horror, like nonstop heart pounding. No, that's not what that says. Like nonstop pounding heart. That is a bad sentence also. Evoked by scary scenes. This must have been written by AI. Can add to the excitement we feel toward each other. I guess so. I mean, I get it. I don't know why it was so hard to get through.
Yeah, but like you can replace that with fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and it's just as true.
Anything fun.
Like if you both really like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it's like, yeah, I guess.
Specific to horror, sorry. Okay. Again, along the same line, conduit for social bonding. consuming horror in a group is a great way to bond and connect with friends and family. Research, okay, now they mention research, suggests that such bonding is linked to oxytocin, which is often released when you are in frightening situations. Oh no, I have a story. This hormone facilitates feelings of closeness and affinity among group members. Maybe it's time to test this out with a horror night with your teammates. I don't remember where I got this from, but this is strange.
That was, I also think, kind of weird. And I will say this, horror movies, there have been a few friendships in my life where I hit people that hit people. I have found people in my life that also love horror movies in a similar vein to the way that I do. And that's been good. But in a lot of cases, it has, and in a way that's totally worth it. I'm not downplaying horror or anything, but in a lot of cases, that kind of, a lot of those movies gets filed under weird shit that Ronnie likes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Of like people that still love me, but would be like, wow, that's kind of his weird thing that he likes doing. It's not, I'd put this, it's not that it's impossible that it could happen. I don't think loving horror is going to be a net bringing you closer with the people that are already in your life. There is a horror community out there, and that horror community is fantastic. I think it'll bring you, to whatever sense you feel comfortable with in connection with that. But I don't think it'll automatically. I mean, but
maybe not automatically, but like it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like if you go to like Not Scary Farm with some friends, I don't know. Like maybe you're more likely to say, "Hey, let's hang out next week" or whatever. I don't know the frequency with which people hang out with each other.
I don't know. I guess I feel like, but it's like the same thing as like the peanut butter jelly thing from before of like, I don't know what wouldn't do that then once we get that general of like, that could be board games,
Yeah.
No, actually, I think board games, you work probably together. More. That way,
Sometimes we're working against each other.
Unless you get with someone that just happens to hate board games. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, listen to this oxytocin story.
Okay.
So like this sentence says, and this is why it made me laugh. Research suggests that such bonding is linked to oxytocin, which is often released when we are in frightening situations. Poor guy. So I had a client, and his parents were really trying to, he was in what I would categorize, which I personally like from the client's side, or like the person with autism and receiving services side, the harder of the two on the individual, because there are a lot of clients that I've worked with where, if they could, they would just like grab their favorite thing and hang out and wherever, and just like that they're living their best life, having like the best time. This kid, he knew he really wanted friends, and he knew he was weird, and we were working with him on stuff, but it was just really hard on him. So like autism is hard no matter what. Hard on parents, whatever. Like at least with some kids they don't know, or some people they don't know necessarily, and they're not clued into like the social stuff, which for that individual, like not knowing the full scope, you have access to like more happier time than this kid is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that like anything is easy overall. But so anyway,
I was gonna say like my son's autistic and he's 10 years old, and so we're kind of in the before times before some of this stuff is gonna really ramp up and stuff like that. And he knows he's autistic. He knows he's in a special class, and like he has that general understanding. But also it doesn't seem to have phased him. He doesn't seem to be like, oh, I'm so different from all the other kids.
I mean, and this was like 2009, 2010. So like a long time ago when we're talking about kids in school. Yeah. Too. And this was Newport Beach, which I mean, I don't know where everybody is living, but like, it's a little pretentious. There's a lot of money there.
Okay.
And the kids anyway. But so these parents, there was like a study at UCI, I think. And, so they
University
signed
California Irvine.
that.
Yes.
And, it was just giving, so they got him into a study where he was given oxytocin in order, the goal was for that to hopefully increase like social bonding for him.
Mm-hmm.
But the mom said that all that basically happened was that he just got really weepy all the time and was like running around school trying to find his brothers who were mortified.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I thought this would be a funny story, but it is a story about, well, okay, often released when in frightening situations, which maybe, I don't know if that's all what was going on, but like not knowing how to make a friend can be frightening. Like if everyone that you see around is a potential enemy or at least a potential like bully,
Right.
like that could be super frightening.
And even then, the avoidance of not wanting to put yourself in a situation where A, you come off weird, where A, you come off different, or B, you come off different, or that you just plain don't know what to say next. I know that was a big one for me. I mean, that's kind of masking is kind of the how we deal with that fear. No, there's never been a class on masking as far as I know. It comes from a shared trauma of kids like us not fitting into that hole or being the square peg that doesn't fit into the round hole, or however you want to put it. Like the one of being zebras that don't know that they're not horses, that they're acting perfectly fine for a zebra, but they're not a horse. Horses act differently.
Don't make fun of this.
Oh yeah.
Not in front of these dead zebras. This is fake. These are fake.
Really?
Well,
no. This is the most expensive throw pillows.
You just throw it. That's what that's its job.
But yeah, that masking is more of it's a phenomenon that comes in reaction to that fear, to block us from that.
Yes.
And that's scary.
It is. The last point to the benefits, other than ones we could probably talk about, post-horror relaxation. While we feel highly stimulated during a horror experience, a sense of relief arrives after a positive conclusion of the experience. For example, the evil entity gets obliterated. Spoken like a not true horror fan.
Well, I was going to say that kind of goes back to if the horror movie follows the rules. Which are
Lined Out and Scream. So to watch that, learn about it, and then watch Funny Business or whatever it's called.
Funny game. But I will say this: and most movies do follow kind of those unwritten rules, those lines that you're not necessarily supposed to cross. I thought actually, what was it, Mr. Sandman? What was the sequel to The Shining that just came out?
I read the book before that.
Mr. Sleep.
Oh yeah, it is Mr. Sleep.
Mr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep.
Get the fuck out of here, mister.
Yeah, I do remember. Put some respect on Sleep's name. Quick spoiler alert. Skip ahead a minute. But they kill a kid in that. They torture and kill a kid in that movie. And that I thought was, for being a movie that was widely released in theaters, I thought that was a pretty big violation of those kind of rules. Generally, you see that as off limits. You put kids in danger in horror movies all the time, but you don't torture and kill one. But that movie did. And I think that's one of the things that makes that movie very notable. But yeah, to the point of that you were saying of not all horror movies are going to follow those rules. I know of plenty of horror and cult movies that at the end you just kind of sit in a feeling of despair.
Yeah, like the Human Centipede. I just wanted to throw up.
I don't know that I ever made it to the end of that movie. Not because I got grossed out by it. I just fell asleep or bored or
date.
something. Yeah. What a good choice of date movies.
I was trying to thwart this from the start, I think. my brain was my unconscious brain was doing for me what my conscious me didn't know.
For second date, did you guys do taxes
There
together?
was nothing. Yeah, we did. No second date. It wasn't that interesting. Okay. Okay. I stopped mid-sentence. So, a sense of relief that arrives after a positive conclusion of the experience, triggering a release of endorphins in our brain. This group of peptides can make us feel relaxed and refreshed.
Yeah,
That's
it's kind
true.
of the roller coaster analogy. I think a lot of this has been kind of like the roller coaster thing.
Yeah, it's not specific to horror films, but it's nice to
Controlled
out.
feelings of danger.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, there are other benefits to horror that I could say, like I just like it.
Yeah,
It's fun to go to Universal Horror Nights. I do enjoy a good jump scare. What we discovered this year, or last year, I guess, because we had the multi-day pass, whatever. There's a Starbucks now up there, and the scare actors are not allowed to go inside. So we posted up in there because there's windows everywhere, and that's where a lot of like the monsters were going. And it was just so fun to watch all the tweens get scared, and they would try to run in there, and like they would stalk them, and it was just a good break and fun to watch.
Yeah. Actually, I've seen. I don't know if this was specifically it or if. But I've seen and heard of, I'm not a big party guy, but a lot more parties and situations are having sensory rooms or sensory places. And I'm probably missing a word in there, but places where you can go to avoid sensory. Like I had a friend who went to a party recently and they're like, hey, there's a room in the back. You can close the door. There's just some stuffies in there, and you won't be able to hear.
What kind of party is this? Just a regular party?
Yeah. Like they were having like a regular
like
party,
a house party.
Yeah, and they're like, if you get overwhelmed, and actually my friend has autism, and they're like, if you get overwhelmed, and like so they sent me a picture from there of like I'm just hanging out in this room for a few minutes to get my thoughts back together so I can go back out there. They like going to parties. They wanted to go to this party, but they tend to get overwhelmed, as many of us do. And so they had a room that was like, no, you go there and chill out for a bit. And I'm seeing a lot more of those places and hearing a lot more people making that accommodation, if you will.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. Because at one point, if I am at your party, I will sneak off to the bathroom and not use the bathroom. I will just sit there and take a minute, take a breath, maybe splash some water on my face, get myself pulled back together, and then go back out again.
Yeah. I went farther than that. Everywhere I would go, I would figure out, like, I'd eventually just go lay down somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cigarettes.
Oh yeah, that I was a social smoker because then it's like the sensory of just being outside and just like the lights not being on, the pressure is off.
Well, and two, I was literally an antisocial smoker of like, no, there's too much going on here. I'm going outside. But it like I don't know, attention draws to you. In trying to demask, I'm trying not to care about it as much anymore. Also, I'm just getting older and I care about less shit. I care about less shit is wrong. I'm doing a better job of measuring what's important to my life and letting that reflect out. So now I'm just becoming more comfortable with practice of saying, I'm getting a little overwhelmed. I'm going to step outside for a minute. Or just stepping outside for a minute and letting people think maybe I'm a little weird. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like having cigarettes on me back when I was unable to do that. Oh, that was so great of any time. Like, oh, I got to go smoke. And people people understood that and gave that and it's weird in the time, like we kind of grew up in the perfect time for that, because were we a generation older, they'd be like, why don't you just light up inside? And were we a generation younger,
vape.
Vape. Well, and I eventually started vaping, and most times still vaped outside, but yeah.
Sorry.
But like we kind of hit a nice little pocket for smoking to be obviously a very unhealthy coping mechanism, but
if you
mechanism.
get addicted, that's true.
Yeah.
I think probably most people that
No, people.
are there a lot of social smoke, because like I never got like the physical dependence thing. It was all psychological for me. Very easy to drop.
I was gonna say I never really had the, I don't know how much I had the physical, but now that I'm a little bit older, I have a little bit more perspective. I'm sure obviously the physical and the nicotine played into it, but also it was very comforting to have a ritual of pulling a cigarette out, tapping it a certain number of times, holding it up, blocking the wind, even if it wasn't windy, lighting it up, and oral fixation, but all very much things that were not helped along by my ADHD. Those were all very soothing things that helped, or that were accompanied with my neurodiversity. And so there was, the farther I get away from it, the more I can be like, oh, there was definitely, my smoking years and the years after were a lot. That was a lot of add to the bonus of getting to leave a room for anxiety purposes, or even like when I worked office jobs, I had something to do on my break, whereas otherwise I might just sit around awkwardly in a break room. That you could go outside and just be smoking a cigarette, and that was considered an okay thing to do. Yeah, I could definitely see it was a way of me self-medicating a lot of things from my neurodiversity.
Yeah. So if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, subscribe wherever you are consuming this content. Write us a review. That'd be super cool. 5 stars would be even better. You can follow us on social media, which by the time you hear this, we'll have made a real post. We're going to be focusing on this a little more. So go ahead and you can find us on on Instagram and TikTok at Inner Moxie Pod.
I just took a picture of you promising to make a post. That should be our first post.
Well, I learned how to do some stuff.
Ooh.
It was hard, but I took notes. And you could email us at myinnermoxiepod@gmail.com. You could write in your thoughts about horror films, like weigh in on whatever we've talked about. That we would love to hear that. You could find us on Patreon. We really want to make a better show for you. We would really love better microphones, better cameras, stuff like that to just increase the quality of the content you get to hear. Yeah.
And also, we live for better or worse, we live in a capitalist society, and more money means we get to spend more time doing this.
Oh yeah.
Also, tell a friend. That's word of mouth is still one of the most impressive things out there.
True. I wrote blah, blah, blah. I could not write that on this paper. That is not stop talking to me. No one cares. You can find me on Instagram at Zanism, Zannism. I am a religion and a disease. Mic drop.
Bam. You can find me across all the socials. Although honestly, I'm probably just going to drop Facebook and Twitter pretty soon. But for now, all the social.
X?
Yes, X.
I just learned that. I don't know anything. I don't do it.
But I'm most active over on TikTok, over at Bandrani, or at Bandrani. You can catch me over on my other podcast, the Band Media Podcast.
Yep. And until next time, Stay fresh, cheese bags. Bye.
Later.